Hey, Joe Mastriano, CPA, over 40 years and thousands of successful IRS cases. And as I've been saying, um, at this stage of my life and career and experience, I'm going to bust open the scams of the IRS representation business without naming names. So here goes. Have you paid some tax representation company and maybe even a licensed professional company thousands of dollars or even 1,000 just to make a phone call and get you into currently not collectible? Currently not collectible, I've always told people, is a band aid solution. Sometimes it's appropriate if you don't want to spend the money to do a formal installment agreement because we're going to do an offer and compromise anyway. And the collection division was pushing real hard, and you don't really have your ducks in a row yet for an offer because I design offers. Um, been doing that for many years. If you're a taxpayer and you don't qualify, you have to rearrange your situation so you do qualify, all legal and above board. But if you're not ready to file the offer, you have to get a payment plan. And why go through the whole hassle of a payment plan if you can qualify to be currently not collectible? Uh, that's a time when it's appropriate to have a band aid solution. But over 90% of the times see people abuse it. I've got a letter here from the IRS on one of my clients that actually called themselves October correspondence is now dated January 24th. Um, took them 3 months. But what they say here, and they've changed the wording on a lot of these since COVID, they say, thank you for your correspondence. Case closed as currently not collectible. We temporarily closed your collection case for the tax periods above because we've determined that you can't pay the amount that you owe at this time. I give the IRS a lot of credit because I always expect them to come forward and be honest about what's going on. And here they state, we temporarily closed. And that's a good indication. Haven't seen that years in the past. They're telling you up front that it's temporary. So I ask you again, a temporary status? And I know they go back within a year, they check your W 2s, which are about to come out. So if these people now have larger W 2 income or 1099 income, they may get a letter saying that we want to look at your case again. Now, if they did it on their own and they're just postponing things, okay. Like I always say, there's a time and place for particular actions. You can't just look at what someone did and say, that's wrong or that's right. You got to look at what you're trying to accomplish and you got to know all the facts ahead of time before you make a decision. But if you paid some company a large amount of money to get you some temporary thing and you thought you were fine, you're going to be okay for a number of years, then you were misled and you were scammed. And don't put up with that. If you want honest business, people with experience. I've had my CPA firm since 1980. Just a few years into it, I started doing IRS representation cases, and I've made whatever mistakes I was going to make years ago. I counsel attorneys, CPAs, doesn't matter what level of experience, managers at the IRS. I have to alert them to things that they're not aware of. Uh, so I just wanted to warn people in this video about the currently not collectible status. Uh, Only if you're using it as a tool for some other action you're going to do with the IRS. The way to avoid that is if you really qualify, is a nominal agreement. $25 a month, $50 a month. I've done that before. I've done cases where we did 25 or $50 a month, and they never came back to the taxpayer. Taxpayer always filed and paid on time and didn't do any of the things to break the agreement that most people aren't told either by the IRS or their representatives. I'll tell you right now, once you have an installment agreement, each period that's part of the agreement must be coded properly, and no new liabilities can come out under your ID number, and you can't be a day late or a dollar short in making your payments as according to the agreement. And no new liabilities mean you must pay your taxes on time. So even if you meet the exemption to the penalties, so you don't get charged any penalties, and a lot of these national tax companies rely on that. They say, oh, you don't need to pay till April 15th, but that's only if you meet a certain case for an exemption to the penalties. And even if that's true and you don't get charged penalties, you still broke your installment agreement because you were late. So if you're in an installment agreement, at a minimum, you need to make sure that all delinquent periods are included, all tax returns are filed, each period that's in the agreement is tagged that period's part of your installment agreement. And from that day forward, you must file and pay your taxes on time. So if you don't have enough withholdings or you made money in the stock market, you need to know your estimated due dates, and they need to be calculated properly, because if you're a day late or a dollar short, you've broken your agreement. And boy, I've seen people break their offering compromises. They've saved hundreds of thousands of dollars in offers. I remember this one attorney, and he didn't make his payments on time, and that big liability reverted back to him. So there's a lot of people out there that are inexperienced, and their idea of doing IRS representation is reading tax guides and books and following along in the books. But I found out over the years that, it's all part of a setup to get you thinking a particular way, like filing before April 15th. What a joke. And not having your wage and income transcripts, and e-filing, which, do you think that it's an accident that they don't allow attached statements with your e-filing? It makes no sense. When you e-file, it takes every bit of information. So if you want to attach a separate statement with an explanation to avoid an audit, why don't they let you do that? That's why we do paper returns. If you're not afraid of understanding your IRS situation and you don't want to be a victim of the IRS, national tax companies, the media, and anyone else that's involved for their own agenda, and you want to adopt your agenda, which means you're going to file and pay your taxes, but you're not going to overpay, and you're not going to be a victim, and you're not going to worry that the IRS is going to come after you, because you're going to know what's on the transcripts, and you're going to know what stops them from coming after you, and you're going to do everything you can to avoid an audit. This is not rocket science. It's just that a lot of this information is kept from the general public. If you want this information, call Stephanie, 713-774-4467. Do my consultation, and then see what you want to accomplish, and I'll tell you the feasibility of it. Thank you.